Now, 95% of property investors who invest in property only ever make it to one or two investment properties. Now, 95%. So the 95% of property investors only have one or two investment properties. And the reason for that is a lot of them are just chasing that one extra investment property that's going to maybe save them some money on tax. They've probably been told this by their accountant, their financial planner, or a property spruiker who's advertised 3 tax-saving hacks on how to get money back off your tax return if you buy an investment property. Well, they put you into a brand new property. They make a commission off you on the back end from the developer, usually 30 to 60 grand, and they sell you that tax-saving strategy. Now, what it does, though, is it puts you in a position where you're a property investor now with one property investment or perhaps two. But what it's done is those properties are now calculated against your serviceability. So the bank, or when you go to your broker to assess your serviceability with a wide range of different lenders, most lenders will look at it negatively if you're on an average wage. So the average Australian only really ever gets to one or two. And sometimes the average Australian who does invest in real estate and has one or two wouldn't mind going to 2 or 3 or 4, but they can't. And the reason they can't is because they're capped. Their servicing is capped and the banks won't lend them any more money based on their payslip or based on the income that they're earning, either individually or as a couple. So what's happening there is they can't get any more money, so they can't go buying property number 3 in their own name and 4 in their own name because it's done. They're capped out. Now, obviously, like I said before, this isn't financial advice. This is just in my experience because I work with investors on a daily basis. This is all I go through. I go through these conversations nonstop, hour after hour, and it's a common theme that I'm seeing. And the investors who are taking action and utilizing trust structures and other entities and not buying in their personal names because they're not focused on the tax advantages. The tax advantage isn't really an advantage. It's a disadvantage. The tax is an outcome. It means at the end of the year, you get a little bit more tax back, but in reality, you're giving away your serviceability. What you don't want to do is give away your serviceability. You want to protect your serviceability. And then what you want to do before you max out and you buy 2 properties, and let's say on an average income, you might be on a combined income of $170,000. I'm just throwing out random numbers here, for example. One of you is earning 100, the other one's earning 70 or 80 or whatever it may be. That amount of money, once you get to that investment property or second investment property, you're capped out. You can't borrow any more. But if you didn't get to that second property, and before you've started your property journey, if you turned around and said, look, I'm not really fussed on the first homeowners grant. I'm really interested in rent vesting. So I'm going to rent in Sydney. I'm going to scale a property portfolio. And you set up a trust structure or entity structure. There's a whole range of them. You've got to consult your financial planner, tax accountant for the exact setup that suits you and what you're looking to achieve. But if you go and set that up before you max out your borrowing capacity with the lenders, you will achieve a lot more than just 1 or 2 properties and a tax saving outcome. Now, those 1 or 2 properties are going to go up in value, right? So they're going to make money. But the real money's made when you have a large portfolio. So you have 1 or 2 properties, cool. You bought 1 or 2 investment properties that could be worth anywhere from $800,000 to $1.5 million in investment properties. That's your total portfolio investment if you buy 1 or 2. But if you go and you buy 10 properties at 500,000, that's a $5 million portfolio. And if that $5 million portfolio is going up at 10% per annum versus the $1.5 million portfolio of 1 or 2 properties at 10% per annum, obviously you're going to make money having 10 properties at a $5 million total portfolio value. So the point is to get a larger asset base and have a larger amount of good debt, essentially, because good debt is what amplifies growth. Right. And that's how, that's why we love property, because we can leverage, and that's why we go ahead and look at the trust structure earlier on. And the more successful investors that I see, and Nick is one of them, right? Nick's on about 9 properties now. He's about to buy his 10th with us. We're going to have him on the podcast soon. He utilizes trusts in his borrowing. There's a new trust for each property, right? And yes, there are some negatives with it, though. You do have to pay an ASIC fee each year, multiple ASIC fees each year. You do have to pay an accountant to run the trust, right? So there are fees associated with it, but the benefits of having a 9-property portfolio and $5 million worth of assets going up in value, you've literally set up your future there. And the benefits of that capital growth on a solid total portfolio value of, let's say, $5 million, because we're using that as an example right now, far outweighs the cost of paying an accountant to run it and far outweighs the cost of an ASIC fee. I think the difference is with a lot of investors, the ones who are very successful utilize trust structures and entity structures before they max out their borrowing capacity in their personal names. And they also don't look at the small things. They look at the big picture. They're looking at how much money they're going to make in future. And they play the game of property, right? This is how the wealthy do it. This is how the elite do it. This is how the 1% do it, right? So don't get too caught up in, oh my God, I paid this much tax last year and I really want to cut that tax bill. Don't worry too much about the ATO. The ATO, that's their job. Their job is to take money from your job, right? But it's yours to go make more money. It's your job to go make money for your family. It's your job to make intergenerational wealth so that your kids can live well. And by doing that, you need to leverage, you need to buy assets, you need to be super successful as an entrepreneur in business. But if you're not, you need to buy property and you need to buy assets and you need to create wealth. And the ATO is always going to be there. They're going to be there for their cut if you're earning $60,000 a year or if you're earning $6 million a year. They're going to be there for their cut, and that's just a given. But play the game of property. Don't deny yourself the game of property by just looking at tax-saving strategies and doing it in your personal name. The personal name thing that everyone is doing to get the tax outcome is totally wrong. In my opinion, I'd definitely be looking at utilizing trust structures and entities sooner rather than later so it doesn't impact you and you can go on and scale. Now, if you've already bought 1, 2, 3, 4 properties in your own name, this is quite common. I see this as well, but you're maxed out your servicing. Sometimes people max it out at 4, whatever. Everyone is different, but you may need to sell down some assets just to regain borrowing capacity back and then can go again. So it's better to set it up properly before you get started, have a plan, know the end goal of where we're going and set it up properly to get there. I think that is the best and most efficient way. And if you avoid that mistake of buying in your personal name, you won't get trapped.